Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're gonna watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug. Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. Oh, everybody talk about that.
Hello and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. I am here once again, because he's been on our show before, with Rabbi Binyomin Scheiman. Rabbi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Rabbi Scheiman is the rabbi of Lubavitch Chabad of Niles and Des Plaines. He is the chaplain rabbi that visits the prisons in the Illinois system of prisons. He does amazing outreach, and he has put together the Hinda Institute in memory of his late wife of blessed memory, which is doing amazing work within the state of Illinois, and we're going to talk about all those things. First of all, my viewers may not know this, but you actually live just 2 blocks away from where I grew up, and when you moved here, I was still living here in the neighborhood, and the synagogue started in your basement as a new synagogue in the community, and we were there for years until you moved to your current location. And what made you, first of all, think that coming to the unincorporated Main Township area of Des Plaines would be a successful venture for you? Because you came right at a bridge where this was a community of possibly 70% Jewish homes, and dwindling month by month, year by year, right at the point you moved in. People who were the more religious people in the community, because when I was growing up, there were about 35 Shomer Shabbos observant families in the community, and it grew a little bit as you came, and then started to dwindle. What made you think that this would be a success? And was it the Lubavitcher Rebbe who told you thought that this would be a good place for you? How did you end up here to begin with?
I actually think that the choice of this neighborhood had to do with my involvement. One of my other activities is the Gan Israel day camps. And for years, we have been receiving campers. I was coming personally to carpool children from this neighborhood for camp. We had, Rabbi Levinson had a community Hebrew school here, and there were many Russian children that we recruited through the F.R.E.E. organization that lived in this neighborhood. So we felt that since we knew so many families already in the neighborhood, it would be a good place to set our roots to develop a new Chabad center.
So let's talk about Camp Gan Israel. You and your son run Camp Gan Israel for the most part, and it is a very successful, long-time camp. How many years has the camp actually been in existence in the Chicago area?
1976, before I came, Rabbi Moskowitz started the first summer, and I arrived in 1980. I would say about 7 years ago, my son has taken over the active role. I do less and less as I'm more involved in building the Hinda Institute.
Very nice. So it is a wonderful day camp, and it's not just religious kids. It are Jewish children from all backgrounds and areas, and all the suburbs in the city. You really have a mixture in that camp, and it's been very successful. In your endeavors with the camp, do you think that there are a growing number of religious children that came out of the camp that weren't when they started?
I think that over the years we've seen some great success stories of children that had no background and are now fully observant Jews sending their own children to camp. We've seen some great success stories. Sometimes we've found that what the child gains in camp, we also have an 8-day overnight camp, is sometimes can be more than they would get in school. And especially when they come to our 8-day overnight camps, in that week they sometimes walk away than they might get if they go to a local Hebrew school. It's so intense during that week, and they really go home with a love for Judaism.
Now I want to let our viewers know that for people who aren't familiar, not only is the the synagogue here, but also Friends of Refugees of Eastern Europe has a branch here in the neighborhood also, with Rabbi Naftali Hershkovitz, and the two of you together actually bring these groups of people together here and have really formed sort of a new community within the community that you had and he has come in contact with, together to make one big organization. Is the organization still growing?
I would say that we are pretty stable. I would not say that we're growing by leaps and bounds, but we've brought a stability to the neighborhood. Whatever Jewish presence has left is very happy at this location, and like you have said, we have the Jews from the former Soviet Union, we have American Jews, we have some Israeli Jews, but everybody really bonds well together over here, and from time to time we do have some new couples move into the neighborhood.
And now, with the Jewish community being here, a strong Jewish community, since the early 60s, you have done something that has never been brought to this part of the Chicago area, and that is you have built the first northwest suburban mikveh here at the synagogue to allow women monthly to go to the mikveh when conversions take place, to use the mikveh, the use of the mikveh by men before Yom Kippur, or those who have a tradition to even go before a holiday or every day. This is the only place they can do that in the near northwest suburbs.
Well, I would just make one correction with that. It's actually a men's mikveh only at this point.
Women don't come on Fridays?
We are looking into plans to get it to that point. Right now, it's only
it's only men right now, so I didn't even know that. But it is the only mikveh in this area, and it's
right. We had men from Northbrook and from Riverwoods coming Erev Yom Kippur to use the mikveh.
To use the mikveh, very nice, and I did not realize it was only for the men. So let's talk a little bit about prison visiting. How does one who is a rabbi, a community rabbi, become accepted in the Illinois prison system as an acceptable visitor to walk in and talk to inmates? How does that start?
That is a very good question, and it didn't happen very easily. It actually started out, the history of rabbis and corrections goes back some time. There was a rabbi in Joliet, Rabbi Hirschman, who went to the Joliet and Stateville prisons. There was a rabbi who went to Cook County Jail. I think his name was Rabbi Schechter. Rabbi Mordechai Simon of blessed memory went to the Metropolitan Correctional Center.
Former president of the Chicago Board of Rabbis.
Correct. And at that time, the Department of Corrections was very small. Down south, there might have been a rabbi with Hillel at Carbondale who went to the Menard prison. But when I was coming in 1980, I guess from the late 70s, for about 10 or 15 years, the prison system just exploded. Many new facilities opened. The mental health facilities had been closed around the state. Those were transformed into prisons, and many new prisons opened. And there was nobody visiting any of those prisons. And in 1980, Rabbi Hirschman was no longer visiting. There was really nobody visiting any of the facilities. And there was a lot of resistance initially of them even allowing me to know who the Jewish people are. It was only through intervention of government officials. We had at that time Senator Howard Carroll of the 50th Ward area. He was very instrumental and a big help. He was a big ally with the governor's office, and we eventually had agreements that just like there's priests, just like there's an imam that have access to know who their people are, there's nothing wrong with a rabbi knowing. And I only started off on a volunteer basis. Eventually they started paying travel. And eventually, as I became more accepted, and once I was going in regularly, I did become more accepted. And I do set a good example of what a Jewish person is.
Set precedents for what a Jewish person should do in your position.
Right. I would even say more that sometimes I would be setting a better example than some of the other chaplains that were in place already. And eventually, Lubavitch Chabad received a contract with the state to cover all the system. In order for me to build the Hinda Institute to help all these prisoners, I have one of my sons located now in Carbondale. In Carbondale, he's within 100 miles of 15 prisons in southern Illinois. So whereas 12 months ago I was spending almost a third to a half of the month on the road traveling up and down to southern Illinois, now I'm able to stay here, build the organization. He's doing all the southern visits. I don't go past, I would say, Springfield, Illinois now. And it saves me a lot of time. In 4 or 5 days, I'm able to cover my responsibilities as a chaplain.
So is he doing this under the same contract that you're working?
Yes, the contract's with Lubavitch Chabad, and we split the state in half, southern and northern. And he's very successful so far.
Well, I want to talk about the Hinda Institute and how it came about. Your wife, Hinda Scheiman, Hinda Scheiman, who was a pillar of the community, not only the Rebbitzin here, the rabbi's wife, and did so much for the synagogue, but she was an educator. She taught in Jewish schools. She taught so many children. She was beloved by everyone who knew her. Her family is a legacy in itself in the Jewish community, her brothers and her family, and then marrying into your family and the legacy growing. She was just someone who was beloved by everyone, and unfortunately, tragically passed away at such a young age. And the Hinda Institute has been instituted in her memory. And tell us what you're doing as part of the Hinda Institute to memorialize and perpetuate your wife's good deeds.
Well, it says a lot is in a name. If you notice the name Hinda, the first 3 letters, the H stands for helping, and then we have individuals. The A in her name is for ascend. Her whole life was always looking how she could help someone else, how she could lift up someone else's spirit. And in that spirit, we have decided that why should we only visit Jewish people in prison? For every person in prison, there's a whole family doing time. There's a mother, a father, a wife and children. And the heartbreak and the tragic position sometimes they're left in. Sometimes they're facing bankruptcy. Sometimes they're facing foreclosure. Sometimes they might even be losing their children to DCFS. Sometimes they don't know where to turn and what to do. The family is breaking apart, and we've decided that we need to invest a lot of time and effort to help those families.
It's sort of like the hospice theory, that a chaplain in hospice doesn't just visit the person who's ill, but gives spiritual and emotional support to the family members who are suffering with an ill relative that they can't help. It's kind of the same idea. You're out not only to give support and spiritual guidance to someone to help them straighten out their lives, to help them deal with their current situation, but you're helping the family to deal with what they're dealing with while that person is incarcerated.
Yes, and they need a very, very great amount of counseling, and I have developed connections with all the Chicagoland, thank God, is blessed with many agencies between the ARC and the Federation and all the rabbinic organizations. There's housing, there's employment agencies, there's legal help. I have connections with all these different groups, and if they hear that one of my clients from the Hinda Institute is coming, they're ready to assist them. And in addition to that, when somebody is inside, they have a turn for the better. They don't want to come back to jail. Statistics show that unfortunately most of them do go back to jail, unless they get involved in a religious program in prison or a faith-based program, and then if they have a mentor on the street, we have a chance to, statistics show, to cut the rate of recidivism to less than 10%.
Wow.
And that's another area. I have another rabbi, or another one of my sons, that is directly dealing, he has a list of recently released parolees from the federal and from the state and from the county, and he is every day on the phone studying, learning, counseling, and we find this very helpful.
Keeping them connected.
Yes.
It's amazing. I was just reading from the Hinda Institute some of the information that you've shared in the past that, for example, there's 70,000 miles of travel during the year in this chaplain business with the prisons. It's an amazing amount of travel throughout the prison system. There's 100 to 125 prisoners. Is that how many Jewish prisoners there are in the Illinois prisons right now, approximately?
Let me go through the numbers. This is Cook County Jail, maybe 2 or 3 other Collar County jails. This is at least 25 state facilities and 4 federal facilities. My estimate is that this number might be a little low. And the reason is that although I see many non-Jewish people together with the Jewish people, I suspect that there are people that are so scared to say they're Jewish, or because of assimilation don't even know they're Jewish. I suspect there's as many people as I see, there's 1/3 more. So it might even be up to 150 people. But I'm dealing with a population of maybe 50 or 60,000 people, so the percentages are pretty low. The percentage of Jews compared to everybody else is about couple to every 1,000.
Sure. Tell me, are you able to, for those who request it, or are you able to encourage, are you able to provide kosher food for prisoners in these jails?
Kosher food in the jails is federally mandated. It must be given. And my experience, again, with the 3 systems is county jail, it's very difficult. Cook County Jail is very good about it. I work with the company that provides it, and everything they give on that kosher diet has a OU and OK. They don't cook anything except for 1 hot meal. The other 2 meals are cold, and all the ingredients are kosher. Federal is also very good at enforcing federal law, and they don't have a lack of money. They print more if they need more. The state, right now the kosher food system is in shambles. They do give it, but I would not really call it. I couldn't tell you that I would eat it.
Right, you couldn't recommend.
I could not recommend it, and it's because of the budget crunch, and they really, for instance, let's say they want to give kosher food. Since the state is so far behind with their vendors, the kosher vendors say, wait a second, we didn't get paid for 6 months now. We're not giving you food. So they get stuck. Where are we supposed to get food now? So there's different problems that crop up. And in addition to that, there's the legal staff in corrections does not allow the chaplains to screen people to see if they actually are Jewish. Their position is if somebody says they have a sincerely held belief that they are Jewish, just write them down as Jewish and just give them kosher. So the system is being weighed down by many, many non-Jewish men asking for kosher, and it's bankrupting the state system.
I understand.
Stay tuned. Taped with Rabbi Doug will be right back.
Achievements of the modern age. We've come so far.
I have a dream. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And we have so far to go.
You're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
Tell me about the number $652,469 saved. Tell me what that's all about.
Well, there is a figure of, let's say for 25 people, it costs close to $40,000, $38,000 to $40,000 to house one person in corrections. If they go back to jail, according to their regular rates at about 70%, it costs close to $750,000 for those people that are being returned. If I see them through the process, bring them out, get them mentored, and only 1 out of 10 goes back, that's saving $650,000. Then it's only about $90,000 cost. It's saving the state through keeping the people out and running this program. It's keeping all those people on the street, thereby saving the taxpayer $650,000.
That's quite an amazing number in savings, because people involved in the Hinda Institute are being involved in a faith-based connection to you, and your co-chaplains in the program are staying out of trouble.
Correct.
It's an amazing thing. How many families do you think you've touched over the years?
I would have to say that it would not be as many as the 125 or 150, merely because a lot of the people I see are drifters. They have no family anymore. But I would say it would be fair to say that of the people I see yearly, I could be in touch with 50 people presently. Now, if I go back 30 years, I could say I've affected hundreds of families. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would have to multiply that.
Sure. How about job placement? Now, we know that somebody who comes out on parole has a hard time getting a job. Have you been successful at helping some of those people find jobs and making connections to sort of say, you can take my word that this person is on the up and up now, and give them a chance?
I have, sadly to say, not seen as great success as I would like. And I'm working with more and more agencies that provide jobs and that will be sensitive to someone if they're a felon, or not just misdemeanors, or that they have a record. And I'm working on improving it. I have had limited success. It's one of the biggest areas that I really need to put effort into. I hope that in a year from now, if you would ask me the same question, I would tell you I'm having great success.
I hope so too. That'd be wonderful. And finally, just there are a lot of social service agencies in the Chicago area for the Jewish community. There's JCFS, there's the JCC, the ARC, Maus Chitim, a number of religious organizations that outreach. Are you connecting up with the Hinda Institute to help these people find other connections in the Jewish community with these agencies, such as counseling and things like that? Post Rabbi Scheiman, post Hinda Institute?
Absolutely, and the reason is that, again, Chicago is so rich and so developed with all these agencies. I think it would be a waste of my time to try to recreate the wheel and duplicate services. So I have been going into these agencies. I am offering a special orientation for their intake workers, how to deal with recently released inmates, how to deal with families that are going through this trauma, because it's different than illness or other types of problems. And I am sending referrals to all of those above-mentioned agencies, and things are working out very nicely with that.
Wonderful. You shared some wonderful Torah thoughts on Jewish holidays when I've had you on the show before. Tell me, what is your vision for the Hinda Institute, for all the things that you're doing, including your synagogue and your community here? What is your vision for the future, and how do you think that this all connects to Torah? Just kind of a closing statement. What is the Torah perspective on everything you're doing, and what are you hoping for with God's help?
Well, I think that we happen to be in the portion of Miketz right now, and we happen, the Torah speaks about someone being released from prison for the first time in the Torah.
Joseph.
And Number one, I want to point out he was innocent. So many of my clients are innocent. Number two, we see the whole dynamic of the family doing time as well. His father suffered all through those years. His brothers, they had guilt of what happened all those years. And my vision is, I would like to teach each of my clients to be like Joseph, not to have revenge or not to have resentment in their heart towards their families, but when they come out, number one, to be as successful as Joseph. He found a good job.
He did.
Straight from the doghouse to the penthouse. He had a rise. I don't mind if all of my clients go slower than Joseph, but they should be successful. And eventually, he was the savior of the whole family. And as he pointed out to his brothers later on down the line, he said, don't worry. This was the plan of the Almighty. And this is all for the betterment of the family. So my vision is to take all these people in this dire circumstance of being incarcerated and turn their lives around so much that they actually become the saviors of their families. They become the heroes of their families, and they start coming to synagogue. In fact, in our synagogue here, we have a man. Many years I visited him. He is one of the pillars of our synagogue right now. And how could somebody 10 years ago being committing crimes, now he works for the CRC and he supervises kosher food in a restaurant? I mean, it's just such a turnaround, and he's, again, one of our main, we're proud of him. Mm-hmm. And this is my vision, that each one of these people should become a contributing part of society, not just contributing, but the heroes, but the people that others look up to, and their families really get helped by them. And no resentments, no hard feelings. All the families bond together.
That's a great closing statement, and I want to thank you so much for being on the show. It is my honor and my pleasure to be your friend all these years and to be a colleague of yours, and to remember your wife Hinda of blessed memory with great fondness and respect. She was a wonderful woman, and I hope that the Hinda Project and the Hinda Institute has great success in all the endeavors that you are working on to help people, because I know that your goal in life is to help others. And I want to thank all of you for being with us. Remember, you can check out our website at www.tvrabbi.com, where you can also see former shows on the web and find Rabbi Scheiman on some former shows too. If you want to email me or email Rabbi Scheiman, you can email us at info@tvrabbi.com. I will forward your email on to him, and I know he will get back to you personally with any of your questions. Thank you, Rabbi Scheiman, once again for being on the show. Thank you all for being with us. We hope to see you next week, same time, same place, right here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom, everyone.
And I'm talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug on your TV show. Well, he's the rabbi for me anytime you need. You're gonna get married or you're gonna die. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug on the TV tonight.
This has been a Taped with Rabbi Doug production.